Welcome to the Week 7 video lecture for Land Use and Planning. This week, we will be exploring exurban development and urban renewal. You may not be familiar with the term exurbia, so let's start by looking at a couple definitions. The exurbs can be a district outside a city, especially a prosperous area beyond the suburbs, or a spatial pattern of settlement that differs from suburbia and that is located farther from urban centers and features a different mix of land uses and population. Exurbia is characterized by low population density, high population growth, and commuting to urbanized areas for work. It's often associated with rural gentrification, as people willing to commute long distances move to rural places, raising the cost of living there while also transforming those places socially. The expression exurb, for extra-urban, was coined by Auguste Comte-Spektorsky in his 1955 book, The Exurbanites, to describe the ring of prosperous communities beyond the suburbs that are commuter towns for an urban area. Most exurbs serve as commuter towns, but most commuter towns are not exurban. Reasons for exurban growth vary. It's also important to note that during the housing boom of the past 20 years, many subdivisions were developed in unincorporated areas outside of cities with no real association to a town at all. The homes were more affordable due to lower taxes and distant location, which attracted many new home buyers that couldn't afford more expensive homes in the city or suburbs. In the 1970s, rampant crime and urban decay in U.S. cities was the primary driver, whereas exurban growth has continued in the 2000s, even as most U.S. cities experienced lower crime and urban revitalization. Even after the housing bust, the exurbs continue to attract middle-class people, especially families who want a large yard or small farm and are pushed beyond suburban counties to meet their desires. Exurbs vary in wealth and education level. Exurban areas typically have much higher college education levels than closer-in suburbs and have average incomes much higher than nearby rural counties. Depending on local circumstances, some exurbs can have higher poverty levels than suburbs nearer the city. Others, like Loudoun County, Virginia, outside Washington, D.C., and Ozaukee County, Wisconsin, near Milwaukee, have some of the highest median household incomes in their respective metro areas. Interestingly, data shows that many exurban areas have higher rates of obesity than their neighboring suburbs. This could be attributed to the times spent in automobiles commuting long distances each day, as well as a general lack of parks, trails, or other recreational amenities in the far-flung exurbs. Several forces of change related to population and demographic shifts are working to redefine living and working environments. Population growth will continue to create strong housing demand. Younger people are rediscovering the benefits of living in the revitalized urban core. Baby boomers are becoming senior citizens with the need for transportation and health care. Households are getting smaller as young people postpone marriage and families. Strong demand could lead to housing shortages, particularly affordable housing that is close to job centers. Finally, poor urban schools may continue to push young families to the suburbs and exurbs. Urban renewal is a program of land redevelopment in areas of moderate to high density urban land use. Its modern incarnation began in the late 19th century in developed nations and experienced an intense phase in the late 40s under the rubric of Reconstruction. Decades of urban decay that began in the 1970s left many areas of our urban cores hollowed out, with little economic activity, high poverty, and little opportunity for young people. Urban renewal projects seek to improve these blighted areas. Urban renewal can be extremely controversial and has often involved the destruction of businesses, the demolition of priceless historic structures, the relocation of people, and the use of eminent domain as a legal instrument to reclaim private property for city-initiated development projects that seek to increase the tax base. This can come at the expense of local residents. Renewal has sometimes added to urban sprawl, and vast areas of cities have been demolished and replaced by freeways and expressways, housing projects, and vacant lots as the outcome of incomplete projects. Urban renewal's effect on actual revitalization is a subject of intense debate. It has been seen by proponents as an economic engine and a reform mechanism, and by opponents as a regressive mechanism for enriching the wealthy at the expense of taxpayers and the poor. It carries a high cost to existing communities, and in many cases results in the destruction of vibrant neighborhoods. Urban renewal in its original form has been called a failure by many urban planners and civic leaders, and has since been reformulated with a focus on redevelopment of existing communities. Many cities link the revitalization of the central business district and gentrification of residential neighborhoods to earlier urban renewal programs. Over time, urban renewal evolved into a policy based less on destruction and more on renovation and investment, and today is an integral part of many local governments, often combined with small and big business incentives. But even in this adapted form, urban renewal projects are still widely accused of abuse and corruption. In recent years, cities have focused much of their redevelopment efforts on trying to attract new businesses and create new avenues for economic activity by offering financial incentives for developers and businesses. The most common of these incentives is known as tax increment financing, or TIF. TIF is a method of financing the public costs associated with a private development project. Essentially, the property tax increases resulting from development are targeted to repay the infrastructure investment required by a project. TIF provides a means of encouraging private investment in blighted or deteriorating areas by allowing local governments to use future property tax revenues to finance the current infrastructure costs needed to attract development. As noted, property tax revenues are the current traditional method of funding TIF projects. Over time, however, popularity of the TIF concept and the unbridled competition for business has induced several states to broaden the TIF concept to other community tax bases, such as sales tax. Tax increment financing has been criticized in recent years for a number of reasons. Some people see TIFs as providing unnecessary subsidies for businesses that would likely have come anyway. TIFs have been abused by being used in prime areas for development, far from blighted or decayed. TIFs capture future tax increases that would have been used for schools and other city services, and these must come from other sources. When sales taxes are allowed in a TIF, a city's local tax revenues can actually decline as people shift their purchasing to stores within the TIF district. This can have serious impacts on city services over the life of a TIF, which can be up to 30 years depending on the state legislation.